a great welcome. And first I want to ask you one of the most important questions, which is, what first drew you to become this parasitologist, or what first drew you into this field of science?
I think a lot of us who are doing science nowadays are really inspired by the curiosity of understanding the world in different ways. I think many of you share that curiosity, and the way we do that is sort of through different perspectives, either through being a physicist or a mathematician. In my case, it was through understanding how biological processes can be reduced to sort of chemical reactions and interactions between genes and molecules and all of these different kind of jargon that might seem a little bit daunting, but is essentially the reduction of biological complexity, something like an infection, to its most constituent parts, and how we can use that knowledge to develop new medicines or simply understand the process. I think that is the way that I kind of think about the work we do.
And so with your research, what have you been working on? What do you do in your daily, day-to-day routine as a parasitologist?
So as a parasitologist, and I think a biologist foremost, we try to bring together a whole group of people. It's a very multidisciplinary approach, and we need all sorts of different technologies to probe that biology that I was describing. So my day is typically organizing different aspects of the lab, different members of the lab, trying to troubleshoot their different experiments, and to reduce some of those really kind of visionary questions of how can we understand how this disease is changing humanity, break it down into pieces that are more tractable and that we can actually solve one at a time. I think that is what I find really fascinating, and working with different people in the lab to put together that sort of work is what consumes most of my days.
And I feel like that theme of taking small steps to achieve something greater is really prevalent in our society. And I feel like this sort of field of science isn't necessarily the most well-known. It's not like nuclear chemistry or like physics or basic biology, if we look at that. But why is it important for us as the US, who's not necessarily affected by parasites or other things like that, to be in forward and be thinking about this kind of thing?
So I think that there are a couple of ways of taking that question. One of them is that the amazing technology that is being developed in places like the greater Boston area has a unique opportunity to inform diseases that typically don't get as much attention. We have just amazing tools that, when applied strategically, can really change the lives of people throughout the world. Right? There are about 200 million infections with malaria, which is one of the parasites that we study in the lab. About a quarter of the world's population is infected with Toxoplasma. About 25% of infant diarrheas, which are really terrible, life-threatening diseases in developing countries, are caused by the same family of parasites. We have a unique opportunity to understand them and dissect them. And by the same token, that opportunity gives us a perspective on biology that we didn't have before. We start looking at organisms that perhaps we had not considered as biologists, and in doing that, we discover aspects of the biological world that were previously unknown to us and that can have applications that we can't even dream of right now. A tool that we use all the time in the lab is CRISPR, which is a new method for editing genomes. We all have genomes. Our own genome can be edited with CRISPR. The parasites' genomes can be edited with CRISPR. And this is a technology that emerged from studying how bacteria resist viral infections. It seems like something that, is maybe very few people care about. And now it's changing biology altogether. I think the opportunity of studying these parasites can have the same sort of impact on our day-to-day world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was absolutely
amazing.
Great. And of course, this talk is really centered about youth and what us as children or teenagers can do. So what can we really do as youth right now to improve this field of research? Do you have any ideas for that? Is there anything really exciting that you think that us as a youth, or as the next generation, so to speak, can do for this field?
I think it was really inspiring to speak to both of you, right? You're involved in doing your own sorts of experiments, and really a hands-on approach at learning science. And I think that is what I would like to bring across to people who are interested and curious about science, that it's not always just a litany of stories or a textbook, but a way of approaching life, of reducing it to small problems that can be informed by technology, by other organisms, by other lessons, and that can allow you to kind of create your own ideas of what is possible within the biological world and really kind of change some of the problems that you face day to day.
Of course. And is this type of parasitology, is this more of a social issue or is it more of a scientific issue? Because I can see them both having an overlap in both of these fields, but what do you personally think about it?
I think it's both, right? I think that opportunity to view biology through the lens of a different organism is a scientific question that is fascinating and that can lead us to realms of biology that we hadn't even considered. And then morally, this type of science and the applications that can come out of it allow us to address really dire needs for developing nations and for societies in general. There's been, industry-wise, a divestment from antimicrobial therapies, right? And we now see diseases that are mostly resistant to almost every single drug we have against them. This is socially a growing problem and one that we need to find new solutions for. Curiosity, academia can provide some of those solutions, and I think the broader consciousness of people in this room and worldwide can really help us maintain the enthusiasm that we need to fight these diseases.
Exactly. Well, Aisha, do you have another question to ask?
I just want to know, what do you have to say for any future parasitologists or biologists or anyone who wants to
I
further
hope that
this?
there are more parasitologists. I hope creative people like yourself will be amongst them, because I think we need enthusiasm and creative minds to tackle these problems. And I do believe that that sort of commitment is the first step.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking.
Thanks a lot.